Hello. You probably do not know me at all, but I'm Zuni6. I'm a Christian and a linguist nerd. Therefore, I know how to speak Biblical Hebrew. This is, very clearly a video series on how to speak the language so that you can have a greater understanding of the Bible. So, lesson 1, how to read and write Hebrew. We're starting with literacy. So, first off, Hebrew does not use an alphabet, it uses an abjad, which is pretty similar to an alphabet, except there's no vowel letters. You'll often hear Hebrew be said to be having an alphabet. Okay, I'm so good at talking. Anyway, often the Hebrew abjad is referred to as the Hebrew alphabet. So yeah, you just gotta know there's not gonna be any vowel letters. We're gonna talk about how to see the vowels later. There's actually a way to write them. They're just like little marks below the letters called nikud. But anyway, so first things first, Hebrew is written from right to left rather than left to right, like all Semitic languages. And our first letter is the letter Aleph. So that's Aleph. It is silent. The reason why there's a silent letter is actually so that a word can begin or end in a vowel. And, yeah. So the next thing, though, is the letter Beth. We start with a curve, and then a bottom line. That's Beth. Now, something we're going to need to explain is what a phoneme is. And after I explain what a phoneme is, you're going to see why I have two Beths. So a phoneme is a distinct sound in the language. For example, bop and pop are different words in English. So we can tell that b and p are different phonemes. But if I take like the words toy and kite, we're focusing on the T sounds. There is actually a difference between them. So, the T in toy is aspirated, as we can see in the phonological spelling. It's written in the International Phonetic Alphabet. I'm actually going to show all the sounds with that. But, so we have toy with an aspirated T, that means there's a puff of air, and kite with a T that has no aspiration. But if we instead have toy with no aspiration, that's not going to come across as a different word. So t and t are not different sounds in English. They're not different phonemes. Now in Hebrew, every letter has exactly one phoneme, but 6 of them can make 2 sounds. And the first one is Beth. For some reason in Hebrew, probably because in modern Hebrew they're different phonemes, we write one of them by putting a dogish lene in one of them. A dogish lene is that little dot. 6 letters can have a dogish lene. Beth with a dogish lene is the voiced bilabial plosive, the same as B in English. But without a dogish lene, it makes the voiced bilabial fricative. So, our next letter can also take a dogish lene, and it is gimel. That's a gimel. I'll, write it more slowly this time, so that it shows up better. So, gimel with a dogish lene. makes the voiced velar plosive, the same as G in English, g. But without a doggish line, it makes the voiced velar fricative. Now, you're obviously going to notice that sound isn't in English. But you can probably find a video on how to make it on like glossacophonics or something. It's not a very hard sound when you have practiced it to make it. You just I can do it whenever, like yeah. So our next letter is the letter Daleth. So Daleth can also take a doggish lene, so I will also write it twice. It is important to have that right bit sticking out on it. Same with the bottom of Baith. Anyway, Daleth with a doggish lene makes the voiced alveolar plosive, d, the same as D in English. But without a doggish lene, it makes the voiced dental fricative, z. We use th in English to show that sound. So you might have noticed that all letters that can take a doggish lene with a doggish lene make a plosive sound, and without one make a fricative sound. This is true for all 6 letters that can have one. Our next letter is the letter He. It makes the voiceless glottal fricative, the same as H in English. It's actually just as tall as the other letters. I accidentally made it a bit short, but yeah. So, the next letter is the letter Wow. So, Wow is a little diagonal line, and then a vertical line. And I'll write it again to show, because I did it bad the first 2 times. That's a wow. So, wow makes the voiced bilabial approximate, the W in English. So yeah, that's wow. So Zayin is the next one, and it makes the voiced alveolar fricative, the same as Z in English. I'll show it. We do a slanted top, and then a vertical bottom. And it also is just as tall as the other letters. I'm just bad at writing today, apparently. Which is not normal. I'm normally good at writing. Anyway. Our next letter is the letter Chis. I made it wide. Just a minute. So, it makes the voiceless glottal fricative. It's also not a very hard sound to make. I wouldn't call any of the sounds in Hebrew very hard to make. They just take practice. Again, you can probably find a video on how to make it on like glossacophonics. So the next one is Daith. Daith makes the voiceless alveolar plosive like T in English, except it's pharyngealized. Pharyngealization is when you constrict your pharynx so that it cannot move. Da, da. So, yeah. Continuing, we have the letter Yod. Yod is tiny and at the top of the page. Yeah, it's not very big. Some people write it like an apostrophe, but that doesn't look very Yodi to me. Most fonts and handwritings, to my knowledge, will make it have something point out to the left. I'm special and make it have a tail like Times New Roman. Actually, I don't think Times New Roman has that detail. Never mind. Anyway. So, Yod makes the voiced palatal approximant, the same as Y in English. So it makes ya. Ya. The next letter is cough. It can take a dog or slanting. It's the same as a backwards C. So, with a doggish slanting, it is the voiced East velar plosive k. Without a doggish slanting, it is the voiced East. Oh, it's sorry, voiceless velar fricative. Voice and voiceless is like, voice is your vocal cords moving, and voiceless is your vocal cords are not moving. So, d, t, d is voiced, t is devoiced. Anyway, so, cough is the first letter to have something known as a final form. A final form does not change the sound of a letter, it just looks different at the end of a word. Only 5 letters have a final form. That's cough's final form. It goes below the page. The bottom goes below the page. Of course, the top part is just on the normal page. Like, if I was to write it after cough, it would be like that. So our next letter is the letter lamed, the only letter to start that pokes above the page. So lamed makes the voiced alveolar lateral approximant, the same as L in English. Lateral sounds like you open your mouth big and you bring your tongue to the top of your mouth. You wouldn't need to know that for L because you can already make that sound. You're watching an English video, you can clearly speak English, but that will be important for a later letter. So, the next letter is mem. Mem makes the voiced bilabial nasal, so the same as M in English. It has a final form. That is mem's final form. So the next letter is nun. Nun makes the voiced alveolar nasal. It has a final form too. It just looks like a long letter. Wow. Anyway, our next letter is samech. Samech is not actually super tiny. So, samech makes the voiceless alveolar fricative, the same as S in English. S. The next letter is Rain. Rain is the voiced pharyngeal fricative, so the voiced version of Chef. Remembering that those are the same aside from voice will be helpful for like a couple of rules when it comes to how to pronounce some things with vowels at the end of a word, and it will be useful for conjugating verbs. Anyway, the next letter is pe, and so it looks like this. I kind of made it go below the page a bit. So pe can take a doggish slanting, and with a doggish slanting, it makes the voiceless bilabial plosive, same as P in English. P. Without a doggish slanting, it makes the voiceless bilabial fricative. Very similar to F, but once again, instead of your teeth touching your lips, it's just your lips touching. Pe has a final form. And once again, it pokes below the page. Okay, so our next letter is tsave. And that's the letter tsave. It makes like a TS sound. Tss. It makes an affricate of the voiceless alveolar plosive and the voiceless alveolar fricative. So affricating stuff is like they happen at the same time, like tss or ch or j. So yeah, tss is the sound it is though. Yeah, it's got a little affricating thing above it that curves. So yeah, for the phonological notation that you will not need to remember as long as you remember the sounds. Anyway, Salve has a final form. It looks like the letter Y, kind of, and it also pokes the page. Pokes down below the page. In fact, final form mem is the only final form that does not poke below the page. And actually, speaking of onlys, the next letter is the letter kof, which is the only non-final form letter to poke below the page. So, kof makes the voiceless uvular plosive. It's like k. You know, like it's similar to C or K in English, but it's further back. It's at the uvula. Again, probably a video on glossophonics, same with Rain and Ches, you know. So, the next letter is Reish. That is the letter Reish. I made it kind of long. So, Reish actually has 3 sounds you can choose from for pronunciation, so I'm going to show them all. First, I'll go with the one that I'm going to go with. First, you can go with the voiced alveolar tap. This is one of the sounds R can make in Spanish. This is like the R in Japanese. And fun fact, the 2 T's in butter make the voiced alveolar tap instead of a T sound, you know, the voiceless alveolar plosive. That's kind of funny to me that it goes in butter. But yeah, it's an R sound, I guess. Reish is considered to be an R-ish sound, like it's a rhotic sound, I guess. But like it's our second option for a sound is the voiced alveolar trill. It can be reish if you want. You know, the other sound R makes in Spanish. We can have either la or dr. And our next one, our final pronunciation of reish, is going to be the voiced uvular fricative. The reason I'm not going with this one is some people might have a hard time distinguishing it from rein. So, that is it. It's if you want it to be, but I'm gonna go with the. And something you might notice in a later video is I say, oh, I might have gotten that sound. I was right. I did get that symbol upside down, the one for and the reason I say that is this is not my first take of this video. I have recorded the first 4 episodes in the series already. And then me and my sister were watching this one and realized you couldn't hear me. I was unintelligible. I was too mumbly. And the other ones I'm good though, so yeah. Okay, so it's time for our third to last letter. The letter sheen. It is the voiceless lateral. Well, it is the voiceless alveolar lateral fricative. This is when I said lateral sounds were going to come into play. You open your mouth big and bring your tongue to the top, but instead of an approximate, it is now a fricative. Again, probably glossophonics is going to teach you how to make the sound. So yeah, that's it. Sheen. Our next letter looks very familiar. It's the letter sheen. Sheen makes the voiceless post-alveolar fricative the same as SH in English. It's sheen. Shh. And time for our last letter, and the last one that can take a doggish line. We have ta. So, ta makes the voiceless alveolar plosive, the T sound. This time no longer pharyngealized like it was in teeth. So, that's what it makes with a doggish line, and with that one, it makes the voiceless dental fricative, the other sound that TH can make in English. So yeah, this is the whole Aleph Beis. That's the Hebrew name for the Hebrew abjad, Aleph Beis, Aleph Beis. So, because alphabet songs help people remember alphabets, I guess, I'll sing one for you. It's time. You ready for a little song? You little special person, you. Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalef, Hey, Waw, Zayin, Ches, Teif, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samach, Rein, Pe, Tzadi, Kof, Resh, Shin, Shin, Taw, Wazaha, Aleph, Beis. Wazaha, Aleph, Beis is, and that's the alphabet, and it's the alphabet. Anyway, that's it. That's the video. So I'm gonna do my normal ending. So, shalom, which is Hebrew for goodbye, and hello, but it literally means peace. That's its literal meaning, peace. And so, shalom, God be with ye, and I'm gonna say the thing I always do. Could you please, pretty please, go do something nice for someone before you watch another YouTube video, make their day. You are made in the image of God, and God does good. God made you for good. You can make the world a better place. Okay, bye.